Los Angeles, California. A private boxing gym near Sunset Boulevard. October 14th, 1972. Saturday, 8:42 p.m. The building looked ordinary from the outside. Low, rectangular, pressed between other structures that carried no history worth mentioning. People drove past it every day without slowing. That night, cars parked farther down the street than usual, engines cooling quietly, doors closing without slams. No one wanted attention. Those arriving did not linger outside. They stepped in quickly, as if drawn by something already underway. Inside, the gym was full in a way that did not feel planned, not crowded, but complete. The kind of fullness that comes from coincidence layered on coincidence. One trainer finishing late, one visitor dropping by, a few people from the film world who had heard something vague and followed it without knowing exactly why. Each arrival believed they were early. Each arrival understood they were not. There were no tickets, no program, no posted reason for the gathering. Yet everyone behaved as if rules existed. Voices stayed low. Movements were careful. The center of the gym remained empty without anyone asking for it to be kept that way. The space was being reserved by instinct, not instruction. The air carried familiar smells, sweat soaked into old canvas, leather gloves drying near the wall, disinfectant used too often to fully mask what it was meant to erase. The lights were on, but not all of them. The brightest ones illuminated the middle of the room. The edges faded into softer shadow. It was not dramatic lighting, it was practical. Still, it shaped attention. People leaned against walls rather than sitting, arms folded, hands in pockets. No one warmed up, no one stretched. This was not training time. It felt closer to waiting. The reason for that waiting was a question that had begun days earlier and had refused to settle. A question that did not belong to any official forum and therefore could not be answered there. A question that traveled quietly, carried by people who understood the weight of the names involved and lowered their voices accordingly. The name Muhammad Ali had already been spoken several times before he arrived, spoken with familiarity by some, with reverence by others. Ali, at that point, was not just a champion, he was a presence, tall, over 6 feet, long-limbed, relaxed in a way that made people underestimate how alert he was. He had learned to occupy space without effort. Rooms adjusted around him without being told to. When Ali entered the gym, the adjustment happened again. Conversations tapered off naturally. Heads turned, not sharply, but gradually, as if pulled by gravity. He smiled, greeted a few people by name, exchanged brief remarks. His demeanor suggested ease, not preparation. He did not look like someone entering a challenge. He looked like someone visiting familiar ground. Ali carried confidence lightly. It was visible in how his shoulders hung loose, how his hands rested low, how his posture suggested readiness without tension. Those who had seen him before recognized the look. He was comfortable, curious perhaps, but not threatened. Several minutes passed before the second shift in the room occurred. Bruce Lee arrived without announcement. There was no pause at the door, no clearing of throats. He was simply there, standing near the edge of the room before some realized he had entered. Someone noticed the stillness first. Then the whisper followed, "Bruce Lee." The name did not move across the room. It traveled along the walls, passed quietly from one person to another. Bruce Lee was smaller than most of the men present, around 5'7", Lean, compact, every part of him appearing deliberate rather than decorative. He wore plain training clothes, no belt, no insignia, nothing that marked rank within any system the room recognized. To many present, Bruce Lee was difficult to place. He was not a boxer, not a heavyweight, not part of the closed hierarchies that governed rings and titles. He moved between disciplines without belonging fully to any of them. That alone made people uneasy. Systems prefer clear categories. Bruce Lee resisted them. People who had never met him before compared what they saw with what they had heard. Stories had circulated for years, demonstrations, private challenges, accounts that sounded exaggerated until you met someone who swore they had witnessed them firsthand. Bruce Lee's reputation did not arrive with noise, it arrived with contradictions, enough overlap to be unsettling. The contrast between the two men was immediate. Ali filled space outward. Bruce Lee seemed to compress it inward. One expanded, the other focused. The room felt suspended between those two modes of presence. The question that had brought them into the same room had not been asked directly, at least not at first. Witnesses later traced it back to a private exchange earlier that evening, a corner of the gym, a small group talking casually, someone repeating something Ali had said earlier in the week, perhaps in jest, perhaps as genuine curiosity. The words were simple: "Could he beat me?" At the moment it was spoken, it may have meant nothing. Ali was known for talking, for testing boundaries verbally before anyone else could. But questions involving names like these do not stay idle. They gather weight as they move. Someone repeated it to someone else. Someone added tone. Someone removed context. By the time it reached Bruce Lee, it had changed shape. When Bruce Lee was told, witnesses said he did not react immediately. He listened, arms relaxed, expression neutral. Someone nearby expected a clever reply, a verbal sparring match. That was Ali's language. Bruce Lee did not answer in that language. He spoke quietly, few words, not dismissive, not defensive. He did not argue the premise or question Ali's accomplishments. He acknowledged the question and suggested, without emphasis, that words would not clarify it. That response did not end the matter. It shifted it. No one announced that something was about to happen, yet the room began to move. People stepped back from the center. Others leaned in. Someone dimmed one of the lights, not for effect, but because brightness was no longer needed everywhere. The edges softened further into shadow. It was understood without being stated that this would be private. No cameras, no recordings, no press. The men from the film industry stayed where they were, hands visible, not reaching for anything. This was not material. This was something else. There were no rules read aloud. Still, everyone sensed the boundaries. This was not a fight, not a sparring session, no rounds, no escalation. It was a demonstration, though even that word felt insufficient. Ali stepped toward the center first. His movements were loose, almost casual. He smiled faintly, as if amused by the situation rather than invested in it. His confidence was not aggressive, it was settled. He had nothing to prove in that room. That knowledge showed. Bruce Lee stepped forward as well, stopping several feet away. He did not bounce or circle. He did not test distance theatrically. He stood balanced, weight evenly distributed, posture relaxed but ready. His eyes were steady, not locked in a stare, not avoiding contact, observing. The room went quiet, not dramatically, naturally. Trainers stopped shifting their feet. Conversations ended mid-thought. The silence was attentive rather than tense. People were not waiting for violence. They were waiting for understanding. Ali made a small adjustment, a shift of stance, a testing of range. Bruce Lee did not respond immediately. He watched, measured. The stillness extended longer than some expected, long enough for discomfort to surface among the onlookers. Then Bruce Lee stepped forward once. It was not fast in the way speed is usually described. It was economical, precise, a movement so efficient that it seemed almost incomplete. His foot closed distance, his hands rose briefly, not to strike, but to indicate position, timing, vulnerability. He stopped short deliberately, leaving space between intent and contact. Several witnesses later said they did not register what had happened until it was over. There was no exchange of blows, no clash, just a sudden awareness that distance had been solved, that if the intention had been different, the outcome would have been immediate. Ali did not flinch, but his posture changed. Shoulders lifted slightly, his stance adjusted without conscious thought, a reflex shaped by experience. He recognized what had been shown. Bruce Lee stepped back. He did not follow up. He did not explain. The demonstration ended as quietly as it began. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Ali laughed softly, not mockingly, thoughtfully. He shook his head once, as if reconsidering a calculation he had trusted for years. His confidence did not vanish. It shifted inward, became reflective rather than performative. The room exhaled. Conversations began, then stopped again. Some people spoke at once, others remained silent. Disagreements surfaced almost immediately, not about what had happened, but about what it meant. Someone argued that it proved nothing. Someone else insisted it proved enough. Rules were mentioned that had never been stated. Someone suggested it was staged. Another claimed size alone invalidated the comparison. The arguments themselves revealed discomfort. The moment resisted easy explanation. Bruce Lee moved back toward the edge of the room. He did not wait for acknowledgement. He did not seek validation. Someone near the door nodded. Bruce Lee returned the nod and left. Ali remained, speaking quietly with a trainer. On the surface, nothing had changed, but witnesses later said something subtle had shifted. Not doubt, awareness. In the days that followed, nothing appeared in print, no interviews, no photographs. Publicly, nothing had happened. Privately, the story began to travel, carefully, usually late at night, usually to people who listened more than they spoke. Years later, when the story surfaced in fragments, it was often misframed, as a fight that never occurred, as a rivalry that never existed. Those who had been there tended to stay quiet. They understood how easily the moment could be distorted. It was never about who would win. It was about how a question had been answered without ego or spectacle, how Bruce Lee had responded not with words, but with understanding, and how Muhammad Ali had recognized that response without needing it explained. The story endured because it remained unresolved, because there was no declaration, no winner announced, because Bruce Lee did not stay to shape the narrative. He let the silence do that work. That silence is where the story lived.